Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and let's talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, because even though it's an enjoyable movie, there is a plot hole, and the plot hole comes from Miguel O'Hara himself. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because a lot of people was like, oh, they are downplaying Peter to uplift Miles, and it's just like, what movie were you watching? Because clearly Peter wasn't even the main character at all. It was Miles Morales, Miguel O'Hara, and Gwen Stacy's Spider-Woman. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, again, you guys always want to try to project something just because you want Peter Parker to be Spider-Man, which he is Spider-Man, but there are other Spider characters out there. This movie is not about Peter Parker, so it wouldn't make any sense to focus on a Peter Parker character. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it, this whole thing that makes no sense, is the fact that Miguel O'Hara, usually when Miguel O'Hara appears in the main, in a Spider-Man book that's not his own title, usually is because something happened in the present timeline that affects his future, and he usually goes to the present to fix it so it wouldn't affect the future. Now, they put some bullshit thing where there was a timeline where he had a family and he died, and then the multiverse was like, nah, fuck that shit, your ass is supposed to die, and you replacing him created some, you know what I'm saying, which destroyed that universe or whatever and stuff like that. Which, honestly, that's not how time works in the Marvel Universe anyway. But really, if the time was broken and he disappeared or whatever, it's because that future version and that future world is creating a butterfly effect. That butterfly effect is the reason why it's happening. Not because somebody's being saved. It's because you put yourself in a world where you're not supposed to be in. Yes, sometimes there are contradictions to time traveling, alternate realities, but usually it's a butterfly effect. And again, while you're trying to be upset at Miles Morales for being that conundrum, it seems like you're upset because Miles is that conundrum that actually works. That butterfly effect that didn't mess things up to the point where you're like, oh shit. Because if he was more rational than ever, he would have realized that if Miles exists and he quote unquote is not supposed to exist, and his dimension isn't breaking down, then that means there's hope for change. And let's even go back to Spider-Man Edge of Time, when the timeline got changed because of Alchemist's interference. There was a future report that Peter Parker read about Mary Jane Watson visits him that day and she dies. That's the record. Like, the record is that she dies, and Peter was in the future and Miguel was in the past, and he was telling Miguel, you got to save her. He was like, no, because time is what it is. You can't change it. You're not supposed to change it and stuff like that, even when we know things about to happen. And of course, Peter lectured him and was like, we cannot just sit here and do nothing. If you have the ability to save people and you know it, then you need to save them. And if you can't do that, then you don't know anything about being Spider-Man. And that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why the plot had it where Miguel convinced a lot of these Spider characters to side with him. And remember, a lot of these, I know a few people were like, oh, Peter Parker wouldn't really do that. But y'all have to remember that each Peter is completely different than certain Peter Parkers that we know. You know what I'm saying? So as much as people want to be like, oh, we know that Peter wouldn't do that. Yeah, we know certain Peter Parkers wouldn't do that. You get what I'm saying? So
are these your drawings?
it's one of those kind of things like, y'all have to remember, it's a Spider-Verse. Different Peter Parkers became Spider-Man for different reasons, not always out of the tragedy or whatever. And some of them don't really go through that much traumatic experience is in order to elevate them. So to put this whole, the Spider characters, they need to die in order for the characters to elevate or whatever, or to keep the web of destiny together. No. And there's one character that's missing from that would have agreed or disagreed, that would have made it valid, was Madam Web. Where was Madam Web? If anybody could have the right to tell Miles or Miguel that, hey, if he's doing this shit is going wrong, it would have been Madam Web. You know what I'm saying? And and then another thing is, if you really wanted somebody to fight him, if you really needed a battle between Miles and Miguel O'Hara, it should have happened where, Miguel realized that something in his future is being affected because of something that Miles doing. Not, he's trying to save his father's life. I find that very of a fucking cop-out bullshit, where you try to use somebody's death as a reasoning why this person's timeline goes wrong. No. Just like when they've done Kang the Conqueror, it's usually because the Avengers had succeeded in saving the world from a certain thing, or an event that was supposed to happen didn't happen. Make it like that. If you really need Miguel to be upset at Miles, is because he was like, I know who you are and stuff like that, and the reason why he's trying to stop him is because of what Miles do affects his future. You get what I'm saying? That's what you need to do if you're going to make Spider-Man 2099 the villain, and that's what you need to have. You know what I mean? Because if you're not going to do that, then you should have been focusing on the Spot. And then if you do need to have a beef between Miles and Miguel O'Hara, it's because he had let the Spot slip, and the Spot had, either went to 2099 and fucked up some shit that caused him to, what I mean? So then it would make more sense why everybody's after Miles, because Miles made this big ass mistake by trying to prove that he's Spider-Man. He fucked up badly. That's what you should have done, instead of this, if he tries to save his father, it'll break the web of destiny. No, that doesn't make fucking logical sense. There's been so many times Peter Parker has defied time and space and destiny. Now all of a sudden, these characters are supposed to die in order for the timeline not to work. No, the problem is the MCU Spider-Man fucked up the timeline, and fucked up the multiverse and created cracks in it. And instead of having Miguel O'Hara go after him, we're going after Miles over some petty bullshit, honestly. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. That's why it doesn't make any sense. That's why you can't really do something like this, because it contradicts a lot of things that are set up. Like, I get that you're trying, I get the motivation from Miguel O'Hara, but still at the cost of not only the Peter Parkers who just kind of stood there and allowed it, but at the cost of, trying to tell Miles that he shouldn't do what he's doing, even though the reason why Miles is doing what he's doing is because he's learned from Peter Parker. So you get what I'm saying? The conundrum of it all is just crazy. But that's what I wanted to kind of put out there. The reason why it doesn't make any sense, because Spider-Man 2099 should only really be coming after Miles if Miles had did something that affects his timeline, not because he wants to save himself because of an action that Miguel O'Hara did himself. And you think that if Miles do it, then it won't, you know what I mean? So yeah, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.